Request and comment with the understanding if he comes in, we'll break him off. Because he is changing his,
Okay, this is our regular council meeting for October the 11th. I'd like to welcome everyone, and the invocation, pledge of allegiance will be led by Council Member Holly Crafton-Lay.
Heavenly Father, thank you for this day and thank you for allowing us all to come together tonight to work on behalf of the town that we all love so much. Lord, thank you for everyone in this room. Thank you for everyone that works for this town. Thank you for the citizens of our town as well. Lord, I just ask that you be with all of us, that you bless all of our families. And as usual, I always ask that you take care of our military, both at home and abroad. May you take care of their families and them and bring them home safe. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, you have before you the agenda. Anybody want to add or subtract anything? If not, we'll need a motion for approval.
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion is carried unanimous. Approval of the regular and special meeting minutes.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the regular and special meeting minutes.
Okay, I have a motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. That motion is carried unanimous. All right. Electric City's EDC discussion. Just in time.
before Jennings get up here, I would want the staff and the audience to know, he came here in a hurry, and he's gonna have to leave here in a hurry. He's got a plane he's gotta catch. So Jennings, if we start getting too late, you just let us know, and, cause we do appreciate you moving your schedule as much as you did to be here tonight.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Todd.
You just swipe left and right.
Really appreciate the opportunity to come, Todd, and thanks for the invitation. So if the questions get too hard, I'll just use the excuse. I've got to go. I'm Jennings Gray with Left Cities, North Carolina. I'm a lead economic developer, been with Left Cities for 10 years. And with me tonight is Casey Burberg. Casey is the senior economic developer for industrial. My main concentration for the past 10 years has been on, and still is, retail and commercial development for Electric Cities. My primary focus was on Eastern North Carolina until recently, and in the process of relocating on this side of the state. This is my home side of the state. I'm originally from West Jefferson, up in Ashe County near Boone. Todd and I share Appalachian experience up there, so it's good to be on the western side, or it will be, hopefully soon. The purpose of the presentation tonight is really just to kind of talk about retail, commercial real estate, how to attract retail and commercial properties and projects. And a little bit, we'll start off with a little bit of trends, kind of what's going on now in retail, and it's ever changing. Probably from the time I got this PowerPoint to Tammy this afternoon, late, things have changed probably since then. So it's constantly evolving and changing. But we'll go with what we have today. And really, before we get started talking about retail, why is it important? We all know we like to have our favorite shops and restaurants to go to and shop at, but there is something a little bit more substantial to it than that, and that is money, jobs, and the investment they make. This is just an average of some retailers, and the typical sales they produce on an annual basis and the jobs they usually create. Target, Lowe's, and had association with Lowe's, so I couldn't put Home Depot up here, just I can't do it, but Home Depot is another example of that as well. Usually $40 to $55 million in sales. And even, I know in North Carolina, majority of those sales tax goes to the county. The county divs it up to the municipalities based on either your population or your ad valorem values. But still, on a retailer like that, the impact is significant there. Annual payroll for a Lowe's or a Target store is usually around $1 to $1.5 million a year coming into your local economy. For your top tier retailers like Ross, Marshalls, 6 to 10 million on average, 30 to 50 jobs. Those are pretty much all corporate based retailers. Then you get into your next level down, your Ollie's, Five Below. Those are corporate owned facilities. I think maybe Charming Charlie might be franchise based, but for the most part, those are all be corporate real estate department driven. 3 to 6 million in sales, 15 to 30 jobs. And then your last group there, that's where we're going to find your quick serve restaurants or QSRs. Most of those are going to be franchise driven, franchise based. That's the largest growing sector is the franchisee based retail and restaurants. A lot of times I'll hear, yes, we want to be in that market. We just can't find an operator or a franchisee to run it. And a lot of times we'll see where there'll be a major franchisee that has, a whole southeast region, and he'll have, like 26 units out there. And that's really good because you have one person that's driving the real estate. You don't get into this where they're competing on the markets. So just want to take a quick look at the current trends. As I mentioned before, it's always evolving. The past 30 years, retail, as you'll see, has taken a tremendous improvement. I'm not sure how many of you remember Radio Shack. This is an actual ad from 1991. And you notice the prices on there. I mean, there's quite a bit of money if you bought everything on that page. A lot more so than what is now all converged to on your handheld phone. Your computer, your camcorder, your speakers, your stereo equipment, phone, obviously, recording devices, all that is now either on your phone as built in, or, of course, there's an app for that. Even Stanley Tool has an app now for a level, so you don't have to even bring your toolbox with you. To bring your level out, you can do that on your phone. So that's really had an impact on the commercial real estate and in the real estate world as well. I love every time around holiday shopping, you hear all these news feeds about online sales, and that brick and mortar retail is dead. Everything's going online sales now. Obviously, in 2019, 2020, during COVID, online sales increased dramatically. At their highest, it was only around 18% of total retail sales, and still is hovering around there, around 18%. Future forecasters feel like that really pre-COVID, that eventually it would get around 18, 19%, but they're all predicting that it probably won't ever get above 20%, but that's future forecasters for you. Who knows? And the reason why is 78% of consumers prefer to shop in stores. Their average purchases online 2.2 times per month, whereas in the stores 7.5 times per month. A lot of consumers like myself want to try it on, touch it, feel it, and they want to take it home right then, especially if it's a large purchase. Then you have, and I really like this slide, it really kind of breaks it down into categories and each category is different. For cosmetic, personal care items, shoes, a lot of that dark blue line represents in-store purchases only. And then you have the aqua blue next to it, and they want to research online, and then they'll go buy it in the store. And you have the light blue, which they'll research in the store and buy online. And then you have the yellow, which is online only. So what does this mean for a retailer? What are they supposed to do? Are they supposed to invest money in online capabilities and getting their shipping handled and their distribution handled, or should they invest in brick and mortar stores? Well, the obvious answer is, and this graph agrees with me, that it's both. You have to really do both in order to survive out there. With online buying, that creates a lot of returns. The stores now have figured out, our stores are gonna be like mini warehouses. So instead of shipping it back to them, you can take it back to the store, and the chances of you repurchasing or trading it in or exchanging it for something is like 80% more than if you send it back online. So the brick and mortar stores have kind of figured that out, and now it's serving several purposes for that. So this kind of confirms that. Amazon, and this was as of April 2022, the top 10 retailers, Walmart holding the line there at number 1 at 12.67% of retail sales. Walmart just has spent millions of dollars. They've slowed down their new store construction for a while, and they went and invested a lot of their capital into the online presence, and they've done a very good job of that. And so they complement each other. You're starting to see Walmart now starting to build back stores again, and it's also to help their online sales. The Amazon, as big and as amazing as they are, only is 10.4% of the retail sales. And all those top 10 retailers represents $2.3 trillion in retail sales. So we're spending some money, folks. So let's focus in on Maiden, kind of really the point of why I'm here. The top left square there represents Newton's trade area, as outlined in the red lines there. The top right is Lincolnton's trade area. It pretty much follows your drive time patterns of 5, 10, and 15 minutes, which is each color of those represents. What's interesting, of course you guys know this, is that each trade area overlaps Maiden. And so that makes it difficult and has had an impact on your recruitment efforts for individual retailers that are located in either Lincolnton or Newton because of the overlap of the trade area. And I argue that it's probably who was there first. If Maiden can market themselves to being the first to locate a unique retailer, I argue that it's actually a better spot to be in Maiden than it actually is to be in Newton, because you have access, that retailer has access to both 3 trade areas, Maiden's, Newton's, and Lincolnton's. Now it's just a matter of fact of identifying the retailers that your trade area demographics serve, and then finding a site that they can work with, and that makes sense. The trade area for Maiden, so how do we get that? We got that from Food Line. Food Line's your largest retailer. It drives the most traffic, and so that is a key indicator of your trade area, where people are coming in from and serving that Food Line. That Food Line does a great job, but I think it only ranks like 40th in the state as far as the ranking of food lines. Still great, really good, but there's other ones out there busier than that one. So we'll get into some other retailers, but the Food Line is going to be critical in the decisions that other retailers will look to make, and I'll show you why. And one thing I do want to point out too is on Newton's trade area up there, Newton is competing with Hickory and Conover. If I'm a new retailer coming in, it's gonna cannibalize, if I have a store in Hickory, it's gonna cannibalize that if I put it in Newton. And Newton's, their population, daytime population, median income is good, you know, it's respectable, but they're gonna have a hard time trying to find anything, and they're experiencing a little bit of that now, of retailers they want, and they're finding out they're really right across the line in Conover, or they're already in Hickory. And some of these retailers, as you'll see in a minute, have requirements where, you know, they can be, their closest competitor be 5 miles away, 10 miles away. Some of them, you know, they want to be as close to their competitor as possible, but they don't want to cannibalize their own sales. So for Pizza Hut, for example, I think Pizza Hut has looked at Maiden before. Pizza Hut is a franchisee, so that could be an issue why they're not here. It could be an issue for various reasons. But the trip that Todd mentioned is the International Council of Shopping Centers. It's the retail industry's largest trade show, or trade organization. They have 3 shows that we attend. One in Charlotte, which I'd recommend any of the council attend. We have a booth there. We'd love to have you, and we definitely will host you at that booth. We also have an exhibit booth in Atlanta. That's where I'll be setting up tomorrow for the trade show there. And that's in Charlotte. We will have a large booth. In Atlanta, we have a 10 by 20. And there's a Vegas show that's international, brings everybody together for all the ICSC retailers. And we have a 20 by 50 booth out there. We'd love to have you and host you out there as well. But getting back to Pizza Hut, the demographic requirements, 15,000 population, which we've seen in your trade area. You certainly meet that. And the traffic, is on there, maybe not. No, this doesn't have any traffic requirements. It just basically looks at population, and whenever they run their sales estimate, it'll take in the population, the household income there, and there's other factors that they look to. I mean, before the data was so prevalent and available, everybody would look at McDonald's, because McDonald's had an awesome real estate department, and they went through and did all kinds of research. And so, I mean, if it's good enough for McDonald's after doing that, then I'll go as close to McDonald's as I possibly can. And so McDonald's drove a lot of retail decisions. Oddly enough, Blockbuster has amazing real estate sites. Kmart, as you may have heard and read, Kmart had amazing real estate as well. That's what kept them afloat for so many years, is they owned all their real estate. Belk's department stores, Belk owns all their stores, all their real estate. They don't lease any, well, I shouldn't say they don't, but like in Lexington, that Belk, they own that building. In a lot of the smaller towns, older stores, they own the building. That's what kept them in the markets, because they don't have any debt there. Burger King, another one, their minimum demographic population is 30,000, and now they add in their traffic count. So they want 25,000 vehicles per day, or average daily traffic numbers there. High traffic locations, good visibility, and ease of ingress and egress. That may sound like just a footnote there, but that's really, truly important. I've seen so many sites, Chick-fil-A sites, Burger King sites, Starbucks sites, just fall to or get to the point where they approve the market, ready to go and close on the site. They get a meeting with DOT, and DOT wants to put a median down both sides. It absolutely just kills that corner for access. And I mean, I told Chick-fil-A, I said, you guys could go here and put razor wire all around your building, and people will still come and get in there and buy your chicken. But it kind of gets back to, or gets to the point about risk of sites. The traffic issue with the medians create risk for that site. There may be Zaxby's Chicken or another chicken franchise that may go down the street that have access issues. And it's easier for the customer to go in and get their product versus having to navigate those medians. And so it's a higher risk for Chick-fil-A on that site. And so they move on to something that's another site in another community that's less risk. Burger King is another franchisee brand. Tractor Supply, a little bit different category, 20,000. And these are all estimates. And these, again, could have changed. And part of going to Atlanta to these shows is getting updated information and marketing your communities to these retailers. So I'll probably have more information, better information following the show in Atlanta. So I'll be in touch with Todd and Blake, and we'll keep communication going. So again, 20,000 median or household income, and then population, minimum 20,000 population in the county. That's a little bit different than in a trade area. Obviously, they sell to farmers, so farms, number of farms, more farms the better, and all of those are all important considerations for that retailer. Tractor Supply also owns a pet supply company, so usually if you get a Tractor Supply, you're going to get a pet supply in there as well. New construction, and they're one of the retailers that will look at existing buildings as well. And as I mentioned on the first slide there with the sales, second generation retailers like Ollie's, Big Lots, they look for, and their financials will only really allow them to go into a second generation space. Now for groceries, Aldi's growing like crazy right now, and they're looking at some tertiary markets. So they want like a 35,000 minimum population, a 50,000 average household income, and a $20,000 average daily traffic or vehicles per day. Lidl started out with a little bit lower minimum population. I think they're started at around 25,000. And I don't think they even looked at household incomes, but they did look at traffic. And so you had a lot in East North Carolina, Lidl's popping up, that eventually just couldn't survive and didn't make it. And now they've got this brand new building sitting there vacant. And but the ones they have found that closer to the urban population where they have these minimum criteria have thrived and done really well. So they've adjusted their policy there. And again, I do want to mention the ICSC Southeast. So we'll have more retailers that are looking for markets like Maiden, and we'll be representing you guys down there and marketing some sites. So once you determine this and you have maybe a hit list or a target list, and you think, okay, yes, we've got all the numbers for all these. So what do we do? Who we need to call? Why aren't they here already? Well, there is a process, and it is a competitive process. Typically, Wall Street will announce, Costco, we're opening 9 stores this year across the United States. And or Lowe's, for example, back whenever I was consulting for them, they do 150 stores, let's say. Well, for every 150 stores, and that's probably at the height of their expansion mode, they were looking at probably 350, 400 sites for every one of those 150 stores. So it was an internal competition for that particular store. Whereas industrial recruitment, industrial economic development, is external. We're competing against Texas, we're competing against South Carolina, we're competing against Virginia, and it's external to get that one industrial user. With again, commercial and retail, it's internal. So Walmart, Wall Street tells the real estate director, hey, find me 9 sites for Costco. Well, he starts his search. And so they narrow it down. They have their minimum qualifications that we saw there for Aldi or Lidl. And then they come in and they say, okay, here's our sites. And they look at what's the sales potential, what's the lowest amount of risk involved. I think it's going to cannibalize our existing stores. What's the growth? Are we getting in where a little bit ahead of the population boom shift, and and that's something that where we come in is that we're meeting with these real estate directors and site selectors, the tenant reps out there, the leasing reps, the brokerage houses, and we are telling them, hey, look, Maiden's got a huge housing development that's getting ready to go on the books here. Look, here's their development map, and we pull it out. That's information they can't Google and find typically. I can't tell you who it is, but there's getting ready to be a huge industrial announcement in Maiden, let's say, and it's going to be projecting 300 jobs, average income, $75,000. Wow, didn't know that. It's constantly updating them on their knowledge of the markets, and that's why we were successful in the East, and we can do that here in the West as well, and just keep those relationships going. They know I know what I'm talking about, so they trust me when I tell them. I never tell them a lie and don't mislead them with anything. I tell them. So whenever I've got good relationships with these guys, and so we'll get to work on Maiden as well. So then they go in, they find a site, they go through a pro forma and look at sales, look at any kind of due diligence. They get LOI, they go to real estate committee. It's either a lease, purchase, construction, and then grand opening. And those 5 steps there can take from beginning to end somewhere around about 3-year process. Now there's others that move quicker than that, of course, but and a lot of that you guys can help and assist with that process. So like with customers. They want, like retail, with data right now, I don't know if you guys have ever been on your social media stuff and maybe you whispered to your neighbor you're looking at a new Tesla or something like that, plug there for Todd's electric vehicle campaign. But and then all of a sudden on your Instagram or Twitter or whatever, you see ads pop up for Tesla. And it's kind of eerie, but that's the way they know that. They know you as a consumer, and they want to be where you are. I know that Whole Foods like to be where there's a lot of vitamin sales, so they do a lot of data on communities that have high degree of vitamin sales, and this indicates to them that this community is focused on health and wellness, and so that they want to pay a premium for that. Competition like retail, these are all top factors. Site visibility, accessibility, we touched on that. Development and ancillary cost. This is something where the town can certainly, and the municipalities can certainly assist in that. I know some of the Lowe's, they had a development standards there that completely killed deals. They wanted split rock face on the whole front of Lowe's. If you're ever in Charlotte and you go by South Boulevard, that Lowe's there, it looks like little mini shops on the side of South Boulevard. That was their requirement. But the difference there was the sales estimate supported that investment. So you got to keep that in mind. So if retail development is truly market driven, is having a retail strategy a moot point? Not at all. And it's because you can control the process from knowing what you can control and knowing who you are, your demographics. When you're talking to folks out here, and you simply tell them your city limit population, that doesn't mean anything in retail. You have to talk about your trade area demographics, your trade area, and that needs to be constantly updated as these developments come in, and these are gonna be outside of your city limit population, so you might not be aware of it. So having a good relationship with the county planner and if he can understand and know your trade area, when things come into that area, you should be notified, so you can kind of update your information as well, and then update me, please. Your leakage, people are obviously shopping at Walmart. They're just either they're going to Lincolnton or they're going to Hickory to do it. I looked at some of the leakage report there based on our mobile tracking data. A lot of Maiden residents go to Hickory. They shop there. And a lot of Lincolnton's folks go to Hickory as opposed to going to Gastonia, which a little bit surprised me. So again, your market and your new growth. And the fact of retail, rooftops drives retail is true. There's other factors in that as well. But so new growth is very important to track. Know what you have, your sites, your vacant space, your brokers, your tenant reps, your developers. I think it was really shocking to one of the towns in East North Carolina. We went to a trade show in Charlotte, and there was a tenant rep there that repped for Chipotle, and he'd been in their town looking for sites, and the town economic developer was so excited about it, and so he was getting ready to give his pitch. Well, the broker knew just as much about that town as the economic developer did. He knew what was going on, what was happening, and I think he was really surprised by that. Know who your retailers are, your core customers, site criteria, expansion plans, language, and know what you don't control, the retailer's decision, the sale of the site, and that's most often where a deal goes off the rails. If you can control the real estate, that makes a big difference. Know what you do control information, and you control the message. Again, driving out, maybe this could be in Maiden, it could be anywhere, and as we drive through, this is kind of what we see, but the planner, this is what he sees. He's already had conversations with these guys. He knows CVS is looking. CVS wants to be near the nursing facility and assisted living center. There's been a flag that's called him and talked to him about the hotel out that way, water and sewer. He's already talked to the planner about some housing, or talked to the developer about housing out there. So this is huge information. This is vastly different than this. If a real estate manager drives through, well, there's nothing happening here, when in fact there's a lot that's getting ready to happen, and that information usually comes from your planner. So another thing that's bigger now is public-private partnerships. That's basically where, again, the town is saying, hey, we need new retail development. The private sector says, the site work here is expensive, or the sale is just not quite there, so we need to reduce our cost. And the town may say, well, we have a site right next to this one that we can lower the price on, or work out a grant, something there on that. So just as a recap, research is critical, but real estate always wins. And retail recruitment is economic development, but it is a real estate function. It's a process, it takes time, and managing expectations, and 70% of retailers are growing this year, so do that. And there's my contact information and Casey's. Please reach out to either or both of us, and we'll be more than glad to assist whenever way we can. And if I can answer any questions, I'll be glad to at this point. Easy questions.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So, based on your experience and just, I guess, in the last couple of years, are you seeing more in towns and cities purchasing real estate themselves to have available for development?
Yes, and for two things, for your national retailers and also your mom and pop main street, because there's a lot of building property owners that are vacant property owners that do not maintain their buildings, and they have no stake here. And so they pay their $50 tax bill every year, and the billing just deteriorates. But it only does it affect his, but it affects his neighbors too, because they're usually connected. So a lot of towns have gone in and made a conscious effort to get tough, because there's always several downtown businesses that have done an exceptional job of renovating their business and their square footage. And it's really not fair to them to invest all that money and keep up their shop when the one next door to it's falling apart, or the guy's using it for storage for pinball machines or something like that, or his yard sale stuff. And so it's just not fair. And so what the towns have discovered is that the community really rallies behind the town council that enforces those vacant and absent property owners and starts some type of program to where they're not forced, but they're encouraged to either fix it up or sell it, put it on the market and sell it. And a lot of times they're like, oh gosh, I'll just, here town, you can have it, or I'll put it on the market and try to sell it. A lot of times it's not worth a whole lot of money, so they'll just, gift it to the town. And that they've done that. A lot of communities have gone in and purchased tracts of land for industrial park, but they'll carve off a section at the corner for a gas station that serves on only the industrial park, maybe a little location of a gas station and fast food to help with lunch there. They have taken some of their downtown properties or on the commercial corridors and put some, especially in electric towns, put some outlets out there, picnic tables, and have a spot for food trucks, pop-ups to come in. And it gives a really good opportunity for franchisees, like Chick-fil-A and stuff like that, to test the market. They'll use a pop-up truck, come in, and if they especially have a place to plug into, it makes a difference. It's really been, it's really getting your name out there, because again, it's a competitive type situation, and the better you can, with the things you can control, focus on those and make it easier for the developer and the retailer. It helps.
So that's a shift of how I think councils are used to working.
Absolutely.
So with that being said, you're not the person, but you're the right person to say as Electric Cities plans our conference in the future, I would like to hear more about that and how to go about that, because I think that is something this council we've had some conversations about, and then we're not all on the same page, related to that, because it's a real shift.
Yeah.
As to what people have been used to.
It is.
So
It is.
I would like to hear more information about that and how towns are being successful in doing that.
Well, and I'm a member of the Downtown Developers Association of North Carolina. Downtown is truly the heart and soul of a community, even on industrial development case will tell you, when site selectors come in, that's the first thing they want to do is go to your downtown. They want to see, give them a sense of place. A commercial corridor is a commercial corridor. Let's just face it, it is that. But your downtown is unique and it needs to be protected. But the fact of the situation is that, when the whole debate about Walmart came up, it's going to kill our downtown, it's going to run. Well, what happened is people are going to go to Walmart anyway. They are going to Walmart. They're just leaving your town to do it, and they're probably eating dinner there as well, and they're probably going to the hardware store next door to it as well, and then coming back home. And some communities are fine with that, but But where the really competition comes in for the mom and pop stores is to create an experience, create customer service, have that, know when you go in there, there's somebody be there to help you. They're gonna find that, that little thing that goes on the end of the thing there that, they know what you're talking about, and they'll go and get it for you, they'll order it and have it there next day. That's usually important. One thing that I did forget to mention is that Electricity, Maiden was actually a participant in one of our USDA grants. And we did get the grant awarded to us, so that means that you will be receiving complimentary service of Retail Academy. And that will be you went through like a 101 basic course, and now it'll be like a 201 course. And that will be held in December in Raleigh at our headquarters there. And that will give a deep dive into a retail recruitment marketing plan. It will identify a whole lot more retailers than what I just hit on today that are growing, number one, they're growing, and that meet your demographics here. Now, there maybe it's like, hey, we're good on the fast food, or hey, we're good on the Dollar General's things. We're good on that. We want maybe something a little bit higher up in quality. Then we can do that. It may say no to this. We're waiting for the market because we need to protect that spot there, because that's truly the highest and best use of that property there. And if we fill it with something that may not be good job producing or sales producing, or maybe even be a menace, a nuisance to the community. And then when a one you really want comes in, they can't get the site, and a lot of it's site driven. It sure is. So it's having a vision, having a plan, and kind of knowing what you want, what the community wants, and being realistic about it. I mean, you can decide all day that it's Target and Chick-fil-A that you want. Probably not going to happen either one, because for several reasons. For Chick-fil-A, their strategy now is to not go into new markets, but to expand in markets where they already are, because there's so much pressure on a lot of these older stores, because they located there when the market was, some of these numbers here. Now that population has increased 25%, and it's put too much pressure on that Chick-fil-A. So now they're going to build another store to offset some of the pressure. So that's really Chick-fil-A's strategy now. Even if you did meet the numbers, probably because you're a new market, they probably wouldn't come. Now, again, if something were to happen with Lincolnton, Maiden Conover, and they needed a second location to offset that, absolutely, that could happen. Target, no. Costco, no. I mean, the number's just not here. Right. And there's other markets out there that, and again, if the 35,000 population that they need, if they could say, okay, I want to go where I can get the number 35,000 people in the closest amount of space as possible. And a lot of these retailers have a 1 mile trade area. Like, they want to have all their demographic numbers within 1 mile of them. They want 50,000 people in 1 mile. And so they feel like they're protected. There's no other retailers going to come inside their 1 mile circle and try to compete against them. They're locked in. But what happens sometimes is market shift, right? So now all of a sudden, what used to be the cool side of town is now not the cool side anymore. It's shifted over here because a new high school. So everybody's going to go over here now, and now they're left in this 1 mile radius all alone, and that's happened. But they rather run that risk than have a dispersed population of 35,000 people within a 10 mile radius or circle, because then a number of competitors can come in there and split up their customer base. Most time it doesn't happen that way because it's never a good business decision to go in and try to cannibalize somebody else's business so you can take yours. Never really a good idea, and they usually don't do that. Most of the time they'll recognize that this community is growing and there's enough population here to serve two retailers of the same kind of category, if that makes any sense. But we're looking forward to the Retail Academy in December, and I will definitely take your comment back to the organizers of the annual conference and make that suggestion. Let them know you suggested that. Love to do that. Any other questions?
So, I don't want to, if you gotta go, so.
No, you're good.
I'm
You're good.
gone.
You're good.
But based on how our town is, I mean, the 321 area out toward the Startown area, there's a lot of traffic. So in my mind, I would think some of our larger retailers, we would do better in that area. However, more the mom and pop type things, the citizens of Maiden tend to support that. That's what they've known. When we have had chains in, we've had Hardee's, places like that, they're not as supportive of those places as they are more so of the mom and pop type places within the town.
Yep.
Is that common
Absolutely,
other
it
places
is.
as well?
Our colleague, Kellyanne, just joined our team, and she's a millennial, and so we've been traveling a lot together and looking at, because she'll be taking over the eastern part of the state, and we'll stop for coffee or something like that. Well, I'm looking for Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts signs along the interstate, and she's on her phone looking for the mom and pop, the local owned businesses, because it's usually a better experience. The owners are there, and the quality of product. I just don't think about it, but they do, and the millennials want that experience. They want to buy local, and that's definitely spot on the trends right now. But there is something to be said, for, I think I guess I might just sum it up and say there's a place for both, and both can exist and both can thrive in there. Now, if you're going to open up your mom and pop shop and you're gonna try to compete against Food Line's Campbell soup prices, and you're not going to make it. But if you go in there and you have best homemade soup, in there, you can compete with that. And you have I'd rather buy, the pound cake here on Main Street than I would a Food Line pound cake any day, And so that's where the experience comes in, the local support, and both can coexist. Now, the lady here on Main Street, she has a lower following, but the traffic is going to be more, just as much to her as the traffic does the Food Line. So when Walmart came in and the little sporting goods guy, the local sporting goods guy, was like, well, there goes my business. Walmart's going over here, so I'm going to go over here. I'll be further away from them. Well, that was his first mistake. He needed to be right next door to them, because when they go into Walmart and they don't have the right football, they don't have cleats, or they don't have all the accessories that he wants for his sons or daughters, then he can go right next door to it, because the traffic's already there. And that is so key, to a lot of these retailers, is that Food Line. That's why I say Food Line's a key to this, because they've already generated the traffic. Traffic's already coming in there. So anywhere that traffic, and we can look at that to determine the routes they're taking. And we can also determine, based on this mobile tracking data, where they came from, they come to Food Line, and where they went after they came to Food Line. I think 89% go home after shopping at Food Line. I think it's split, I think 50-some% came from work. And then there was some that actually, it's kind of interesting. I was telling a colleague that Shop and Food Line in the 3 markets here, that you kind of go around in circles. I mean, it's like if this one doesn't have it, then you go to one in Lincolnton. If Lincoln doesn't have it, you go to one in Newton. And so you're just swapping sheep, as my pastor called it, around. And so, but Food Line's mobile tracking data was actually better than the Food Line in Lincolnton's. It outperformed it. And I don't know, you may know why. It may be management, it could be the store's age or whatever. But, I mean, it wasn't huge difference in numbers, but the Food Line here outperformed them slightly. And so I think it's kind of neck and neck for the Food Line in Newton. But, it's you've got so many things going for you. You've got your population's growing. You've got an incredible industrial base here, and my gosh, I mean, that's amazing. And hats off to you for the incredible job you've done on your industrial side. I mean, that alone, I mean, y'all could just close down tomorrow and be fine. And say, job done. Now, it's the, according to Blake, the residential is growing. You're getting more permits in. It's just a matter of time. But it's going to take some time, and you need to be prepared for it, have a plan for it, so that you can kind of, either through zoning or through purchase, kind of protect that area that you identified for, and we can help identify these sites, and we will in December. We'll actually go through and say, here's the sites based on what's on the market and based on what's not on the market, which is just as critical, because things happen, people change their mind about whatever they're doing, but or if they're willing to sell. And we'll have that inventory in December for you, and that way you can say, I don't agree with this, I do agree with it, this is right, but this is why we think that it should be a little bit further this way, or maybe it should be south, or whatever. But we'll get into all those details in December. Our goal is for you to walk away with some very valuable information so you can bring back to council, discuss it, and then make a plan for how to move forward. And we'll be glad to take that journey with you every step of the way and help you financially with some grants that we have. It's on the table. I was talking to Todd the other day, they're like, no more grants, please. But seriously, I mean, we make it pretty easy. Better, a lot easier than the federal government makes their grant program lead.
Now, saying that, he walked in right after we had to get through dealing with FEMA on a 2013 grant that still hadn't closed yet, so.
Yeah, first thing I said, we got some grants for you, Todd. He's like, no thanks. But anyway, we're a little bit, and he was kidding, of course, but our grant process is a little bit smoother than that. But again, we're obviously, when you succeed, we succeed, and we're partners in this, and we're stand ready to help and assist any of you anytime we can.
So I have one more question.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
swear I'm not gonna ask
No,
you more.
please.
So based on the demographics that you showed, CVS was the 3rd leading retailer or earner.
Right.
I'm a little bit surprised by that, because generally, I guess pharmacies, their income is prescriptions. I mean, that's how they make their money.
Right.
And we're seeing a real shift in how people are obtaining prescriptions, through Express Scripts or through the mail service or whatever. So is it their doc in the box idea? What's bringing their money in?
They do have, they started, their CVS clinics inside Target. So that's another trend, is a store within a store.
Yeah.
Sephora's going in Target. And so.
Sephora's in Kohl's.
Yeah, and Target as well.
And Target too?
No, not Sephora.
Ulta.
Yeah, is going into Target.
Ask the
So.
millennials in the back.
Yeah, thanks, young people. That's and so that store-in-store concept is happening with medical as well. you know, with the vaccines, that was a real boost as well. I hadn't gone back and looked at like what 2020, 2021 on those, or 2020 was on that. I think that was 2021, if I'm not mistaken, on that list there, but as of April 22, so it would have been the prior year. So that'd be 21, which that makes sense on CVS Health on that, with all the vaccines and stuff like that going out. And Walgreens, you know, at 8. But, I mean, it's
Well, Walgreens is, they don't have the Minute Clinic or what, on site. I'm just trying to figure out how CVS is really, because I
Yeah.
just can't imagine their prescriptions are carrying them to be that high up.
well, if you look at, you know, difference between 3 and number 1 there, I mean, it's half. It's basically
Yeah.
half of that percentage, so, of that. And, you know, I'm kind of surprised too, especially with Costco and Home Depot. And by the way, Lowe's is number 11 on that list. But, you know, with CVS and, you know, higher than Target, and it could be just the sheer number of units out there.
That's a lot of those.
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
true.
every town basically, within a
Can't be Dollar General.
6, 7, mile radius has a CVS there.
Based on you.
I'm surprised it's that big of a difference between CVS and Walgreens.
And again, you know, Walgreens, you know, they closed a lot of the stores. They went through and closed, you know, because, what was it, Rite Aid, you know, they went through, so there's a lot of vacancy out there in those, so it might have boosted up, you know, CVS's earnings in doing that. But I haven't researched it much, you know, to beyond that, but that's just my thoughts.
Yeah.
Jennings, it's getting close to 7. I know you got a plane to catch. I just wanted to say thank you for coming. If council has any more questions, if not, I also would be remiss if I didn't say, me and him sat down and talked, and he will be the first to tell you that we do have, there's a lot of opportunities, but we also have a lot of challenges. One of which we just ran in today with me and Blake. The cost of our land in our commercial retail is higher than that of our competitors closer to us. So I guess it's incumbent on us to figure out a solution to that, because it's very hard to compete when you have less population, less traffic, and all by the land. By the way, the land's 30% higher. So that's something we're gonna have to deal with, and we're gonna have to figure out a solution to. I also know that after December, we've talked about doing another retail study as we did before.
Yes.
Is that in the spring? I can't remember.
Well, actually, we'll get that in December as well.
Okay.
Yep, it'll all be encompassing in that.
Because we did that one pre-COVID, so
Yeah,
pretty much
that's right.
it's,
Yeah, yeah,
all that information's changed now.
that's right. That's right.
So,
Anyone else?
Thank
any
you.
more questions?
Thank you.
Informative. Appreciate it.
Thank
That's
you.
perfect.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
And have a safe flight. And I really, truly appreciate you moving.
Absolutely.
Because I know how
Absolutely.
much, I know how much you moved to get here tonight, and I
Yeah,
really
yeah, absolutely.
appreciate both of y'all.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to be here. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna go into the citizens' request and comments, but first, I'd like to, let's note that October is the month for breast cancer awareness. So starting tonight, the town hall will be lit up in pink like we did last year.
And for y'all that don't know, we have spotlights out front. We turn them pink on town hall, so ride by, well, you might be able to see it when you walk outside.
Probably see it when you leave.
Pretty cool.
Hey, my name's Samantha Saunders from Maiden Business Association. Just want to remind you of 2 dates on our calendar. This Saturday, October the 15th, is a Spooktacular movie night. It's something that we wanted to put out there for children. You know, we do our jobs during the summer, and that's mostly an adult event. We're gonna have a movie, a giant inflatable slide, hayride. We're gonna, Civic Group is selling hot dogs, free popcorn provided by the rec department, and free water provided by Food Lion.
And if you have random people from outside town walking in your business asking you about that, I've been asked about that from, I mean, like, literally, I took my daughter to the dentist and her, the person who cleans her teeth was asking me about it. And I told her all the information. I said, but you really need to probably talk to Sam at Piedmont Hardware, so.
Yeah.
What's
The
the
word is
location?
getting out there, so congratulations.
What's the
We
lo-
have a lot of competition
What's
this
the
time of year.
location, Sam?
The rec department, the shelter closest to Splash Pad.
Thank you.
We've rented a giant inflatable movie screen. The movie is Hocus Pocus. We had discussed having Harry Potter, but Harry Potter was 2.5 hours long. Hocus Pocus is 1.5 hours. So that was the reason we went with that movie. Guests of all ages are encouraged to come in costume. And we are also doing a community coat drive. If you have a gently used, clean, gently used, or new coat you'd like to donate, one donation giver will receive a door prize. We're gonna draw we're gonna give a door prize to one of the people who donate. The other date is December the 15th. That's the Merry Maiden Downtown Christmas. I haven't requested a special events permit for that one yet. Hope to get that underway tomorrow. Not sure if I'll get it complete, but I'll at least get it started. Any questions? Okay.
Thank you, Sam.
I'd like to say good evening to the board. I'm Mary Holloway Henry, 522 South D Avenue, Maiden, North Carolina. And I want to start off I know Holly and Beth and Cameron are new to the board, but I think this is gonna start, I wanna start out with Todd, because me and him was in the economic, a meeting in I think it was 7/24/19. And what's coming back now, Todd, is want to know what is the purpose and use of this building, the Paul J. Cutler Library Education Center. How long that building been there? How long the building been over there?
I'm guessing probably 6, 7 years.
Okay.
I don't know, to be honest with you.
Because when I was on this committee, we was looking at the town, the 5 years, so we gonna be going into 5 years, which they are doing well. But what we wanna know, and what the citizens wanna know, this is for everybody. Because people are asking, what the building's for, what it's used for, but they wanna know, when we started out with this building, what was the purpose of this building? We see the sign out there,
So-
education, yes.
Yeah, so a family donated money to pay for roughly 60% of the cost, and they wanted it to be a public library. Well, we reached out to them and explained to them there was a public library across the street. And so they agreed, and Kent Crowe was the attorney at the time, negotiated to agree for it to be a learning center for educational opportunities for mainly town staff and for us to hold events such as meetings and such. Since then, I know the fire department's used it, I believe the police department's used it. The electric department uses it probably 3 times a month, the water department uses it. It also houses the classroom in the entire electrical lineman training program for the entire state of North Carolina.
Okay, the citizens, not just gonna separate the citizens. We gonna put all the citizens in one big, the citizens of Macon wanting to know who, when, and what. Can the citizen use the building?
For what purpose, Mary's gonna make-
Okay, you say, okay, educational. what is used educational wise? I'm talking about,
So every public works, most of our employees have to have additional training throughout the year to maintain certain qualifications. We use that building, state agencies come in and use it. We've had meetings there regularly. You can, I about called you Samantha, Jessica's in the back. She can pull how often, because you can rent it, and you can pull how often it's rented every month. But it's just like the community room across the street, across the hall, is a public facility that can be rented from people if they want to.
they can use the building. I'm talking about, with citizens are concerned about the.
What's it- They
we
can call
are-
me. I mean,
what-
I can
no,
sit down and
what-
talk to them.
No, this is gonna have to be brought to the board, because educational wise, we're gonna outgrow this library. So, the library now is too small. You got 4 computers over there and 1 child computer. Now, I'm not just speaking to you as me, educational wise. I know what you say you're using it for. But what is educational wise used for the citizen? What I'm saying, let me lay it out there. Why can't it be a computer lab?
Because it's not built for that. It's used for the citizens because we have a linemen who get trained to keep their power on. The citizens get clean and safe water to drink because we get to train our water crews to how the properly operate when, in the training they need. Firemen get trained, so that benefits the citizens as far as if, for fire safety, police get trained, that benefits the citizens. Everything we do benefits the citizens in somehow.
Well, I know what you're saying, and I'm talking to the board. That's educational wise. We're gonna outgo the library. You got to look at all the economics coming in, the development coming in. We got the houses coming in. You building out that Star Town and all. You just have to make it explain it to the, let the citizen know what's going on. All of them not gonna come up in here, and they talk among themselves. And when you come and you see this sign up there that said library and education center, that's bad news. Okay, the reason why I'm bringing this to you, because people come and they think it's a library, and you pulling on the doors and the doors locked. So I see what you're saying about all this going on over there, but I'm talking me myself. I'm looking at our kids. All of them don't have computers. They don't have all this to come. If we had something for them, they can come in the evenings and use a computer lab. That would benefit the town and the citizen. Wouldn't you think?
So, Todd, could, like, say for instance, if somebody wanted to rent that building for like a class event, could they do that?
So we have a process for them to rent it, and depending on what it is, I believe we've had, and I don't want to take this with, this is my best recollection, okay? I want to say we've had counselors there for abused women and stuff like that. We don't charge for stuff like that. And if you want to come in, we've had people come in and rent the community room in here, and if it's during the day and it's for a public use, we don't charge for that either. So we get same thing at the rec. We have 3 main spaces that we can use, and most of the time, they choose to use the one in the community room here because it's already staffed and it don't cost them anything. If we have to put somebody over there, that costs us the town money to have somebody staff it. And this right here is, we already have IT people and stuff in this building if they have an issue in the community room as far as technology. As far as the library goes, the word library, the person who donated the money to have it built, that was her wish to have her father or her grandfather's name with the Library and Education Center. We have made several attempts to get in touch with the family since then and see if we could rename it something else. Unfortunately, they have not returned our calls. I believe even Scott's even tried at one point. I know I've made several attempts. The family,
Be from what, Florida?
yes, and they, they have very different means of living than we do. And this, to be honest with you, this is probably very low on their priority list. But, I mean, the library itself that kids can go to and use computers, that is a county function, not a town function. Just like a school is a county function, not a town function. So there is a separation there of what functions and what duties fall on
Okay.
what organization.
So that you're looking here, what you're saying, so you saying the building, saying the education, library and education center. Educational center is used, it's not, the county don't have nothing to do with it, it's the town.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right.
So Mayor, I got one real quick. Current library, Catawba County Library, that's over there. You said there's 4 computers in it. So I haven't been over there recently, but, the room next to that library is or was an open meeting room, classroom, whatever. Have we made any efforts to solicit to the county to expand that room into more computers in that room in addition to the 4 in the other side on the library? Would that be a better fit?
No, all the citizens, you talking to a whole town. They looking at the center over there, what you already got. They looking at that to be some kind of computer lab or education for our kids. This town is growing, but you got all these classes in there, and they come and want to know where the library. They open the door and think it's the library, and then the library is over there.
It would help us if we took the library off that building, wouldn't it?
No, if that's what the woman wanted, whoever designed it, that's what they want, what you gonna take it off for?
Thank you, Mary. Anyone else?
I'll speak up.
Okay.
The gentleman from Electric Cities was spot on when he was talking about what's trending. It's very trending for traffic to be driven to local downtown areas. People do not want to give their monies to Walmart, they don't want to go to Lowe's, they don't want to go to Target. This area is wide open for expansion. I'm telling you, it's wide open. Y'all hold on, because we're gonna fly. We're gonna get there, and it might be a bumpy ride, but it's wide open. Millennials want to support brick and mortar. I haven't did my research on Gen X's. The thing I know about them is they're very money conscious. They put back money, they save money. They don't want to see hard times. They want to be prepared for hard times. I don't know about their shopping habits, though.
They wanna be outside and bring their dog.
You
They want to
mean-
be outside.
Bring their dog.
That's, yeah, that's a
I mean,
good point.
That's the move, that's what they wanna do, and they don't wanna go anywhere where they can't.
That's true.
They want their dining experiences to be outside, their drinks to be outside, that, they want an outside experience.
Okay,
I mean, that's what I, what I read.
that's what.
And I see that.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes complete sense. As far as, I thought of something, the town's closing the streets for trick or treating. Do we ever hear people complain about restrooms? Has that,
I have.
not really? I haven't ever. Okay. And the last thing, is there a sign on the library building? Mary was talking about that directs traffic over to the real library.
We've put them up and they get tore down.
Okay, all right,
And, yeah, so.
okay.
Anyone else like to speak? Good, if not, we're gonna move right along. Have before you the consent agenda items, consist of the finance officer's report.
So, I'm getting there. I haven't updated mine, that was just added. Is there any questions on it? I know that, Kenneth was here up until last week, Jess came back, and we're glad to have her back. She came back Monday morning, bright and early, and, had done some talking, but she came back again today, so we're glad. But do y'all have any questions on it?
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve finance officer report.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion's carried unanimous. Presentation, Enterprise Public Works Vehicles.
So many of y'all that went to the electricity's conference, remember, Amanda, she was there.
Yes. Thank you all for having me. I just want to start off by introducing myself, telling you a little bit about me, and then also why I am here today. So I am born and raised in North Carolina, Winston-Salem. Grew up there. My parents still live there. Went to UNC Wilmington for college. And then after college, I got my first job at Enterprise Rent-A-Car as a management trainee. So I worked my way up, managing a couple branches in the Wilmington area. And right at 4 years, I was promoted to an area sales manager in Charlotte, North Carolina, where I oversaw 6 locations, 6 rental locations, about 45 employees, and about 1,200 vehicles. And so through that process, there's a lot of customer service and running each individual branch and the P&L for each branch, which a lot of that involved the 2 largest expenses, which was personnel and then fleet. So that was my first big experience with fleet management. I did that role for a couple years and then was recruited by our fleet management division to come over and do new business development for Enterprise Fleet Management. So that's what I'm doing today. That is why I'm here with you guys today. I meet with all kinds of organizations, from government entities, commercial businesses, anybody that has a fleet of vehicles, help learn about your current operations, and then help put strategies and solutions in place to help you lower your overall total cost of ownership, as well as operating your fleet at the lowest cents per mile. So that's what brought me here today, and I appreciate the time. Slide this. So quick agenda, just what I want to go over and cover with you guys today is an overview of Enterprise Fleet Management and some of our current clientele. What do we do and why should you partner with us? The total cost of ownership, what is that? What does that mean in general, and what does it mean to the town of Maiden? Resale advantages, especially when we look at our resale advantages and benefits that we have to our government clientele. Talk some about the partnership resources and what plans and processes and proactive planning that we'll bring to the town of Maiden Public Works vehicles, and then have some time for Q&A at the end. So just to start with a little background of Enterprise Fleet Management, we are, if you have not heard of or not familiar with Enterprise Fleet Management, we're a sister company of Enterprise Rent-A-Car. So you've probably at least heard of Enterprise Rent-A-Car. And we're all under the Enterprise Holdings umbrella. So we started in 1957 by a guy named Jack Taylor. We are still a privately family-owned run business to this day. His granddaughter is our CEO. So you can see on the left-hand side all the different companies that are under the Enterprise Holdings umbrella. And we actually are the largest purchaser and seller of vehicles in the world, and we manage over 2 million vehicles. So we've got some skin in the game. We've been doing this a long time. And for Enterprise Fleet Management, we are across North America. We've got 54 locations, and we just surpassed 600,000 vehicles that we currently manage and finance. And that's across the country, about 11,000 clients. Out of those clients, again, they're all different types of organizations, government entities, commercial businesses, nonprofits. But of those 11,000, about 2,000 are government entities. And we've really been growing the government sector over the last several years. We have over 80 government clients in North Carolina and manage over 5,000 vehicles in North Carolina. I like to point out our North Carolina client retention is 99%. A question we get asked a lot is, how long are the contracts for when partnering with us. And there is no long-term contract or nothing binding you into a partnership. Our contracts are essentially the contract for each vehicle, the lease payment of that vehicle. So you can essentially walk away at any time if you're not happy with the partnership. So that 99% isn't because we've wrote people in to sign and agree to 5-year contracts, because they love us and they love what we do for them. Some of our current government clientele is on this screen. So you've got everything from the League of Municipalities to towns, universities, school districts, cities, counties, you name it. They're all different. They have all got different size fleets. They all use different type of vehicles. But what they all have in common is that they've owned and operated a fleet of vehicles for a very long time, and they never saw or thought that there was any reason to change what they were doing. But through the same meetings and strategic planning that we are doing with Maiden today, they did the same and were able to see the proactive planning, looking at the total cost of ownership and looking at the fleet as a big picture, that's ultimately the reason they decided to partner with us. So when I talk about fleet management, what fleet management is, and the total cost of ownership, that is everything from the acquisition to resale, to maintenance and fuel programs, license and titling, risk management, insurance, everything in between, you name it. And so what we want to look at when looking at the total cost of ownership is what are you doing today and how can we help you reduce those costs and operate the most efficient fleet at the lowest cents per mile, but also help streamline efficiencies and take multiple people wearing multiple hats and consolidate everything under one umbrella. And we really want to be an extension of the town. So it's not just fleet management, it's getting involved in the community as well. So to give you an example of the total cost of ownership, we first nail it down to just per vehicle basis. This is an example of a half-ton pickup truck, and this assumes that you have it for 10 years, about 15,000 miles a year. The total cost of ownership of that truck is a little bit over $65,000. And a lot of times what people think when you think of the cost of a vehicle is, what did I buy it for? What did I pay it for, right? That's actually only 20 to 30% of the total cost of ownership. The 70% or more of the total cost of ownership is what you see in the green, the maintenance and fuel expenses, so your operating expenses. So how can we reduce maintenance and fuel expenses? What plans and programs can we put into place to help reduce that cost, which ultimately reduces your overall cost of each individual vehicle? So then you take those plans and processes per vehicle and multiply it across your entire fleet. And that's really where you see the big financial long-term impacts. So if we take these, the capital and operating, and just look at it in 2 buckets as an example of what you've got for your vehicle fleet budget. About 70% is operating, and about 30% is your capital. Well, what we all know is government entities are always challenged to do more with less. So when you're looking at your budgets every year, there's places and areas where costs have to be cut. 9 times out of 10, or 10 times out of 10, what's cut is the capital costs and the acquisition. Let's not buy new vehicles this year. So let's save money in that category, and let's keep some vehicles longer, and we'll look at replacing down the line. Well, what you're doing when you're making that decision is you're just increasing your operating expenses because you're keeping an older, aged fleet of vehicles. The older the vehicle, the less value in resale, the higher the fuel is going to be because of fuel degradation. Then your maintenance expenses are going to continue to rise, and they're going to be a lot less controllable. So how are we going to reduce those operating expenses? Well, if we were to look at the buckets without the labels, and I were to ask you, how are you going to cut costs, or which bucket would you like to reduce your cost, you're going to say operating. So there's only one way to reduce your operating expenses, and that is to lower the age of your fleet. And there's only one way to lower the age of your fleet, and that is to cycle vehicles out more frequently than you ever have before. So you're probably thinking, all right, that sounds like I'm going to spend money to save money. How does that work? And there's one big key factor that comes into play, especially when it comes with government entities, and that's the resale. So this slide here is all third-party data. And I want to note too that all of the information on this slide is pre-pandemic numbers. I think we've all seen the impacts of the pandemic, especially when it comes to the resale market. So these are all numbers prior to the pandemic. And so if you were to take in 2020 a regular 1500 Silverado and MSRP is $37,000. Well, we all know governments have phenomenal buying power, whether that is your office supplies or vehicles. So if you take that same exact vehicle on the Sheriff's Association or state contract, the price of that vehicle for 2020 was $23,000. So that's a $14,000 difference just on the front end. So what that means to you and why I want to talk about the resale advantages is we took all of the Mannheim auction results nationwide for all 2018, which is a 2-year-old Chevy Silverado, and the average odometer was about 22,000 miles. The average sale price was $24,000. Remember, you just bought that vehicle for $23,000 2 years ago. That's a $1,000 profit when you go to sell that vehicle. Take the same exact vehicle after 1 year, so 2019. Average odometer for all 2019s were sold was 7,000 miles. The average resale price was a little bit less than $29,000. Again, you purchased that vehicle off state contract for $23,000. You're at a $5,600 profit from resale. How much maintenance did you do on that 2019? Maybe an oil change. So not only are you looking at the capital side, but you're also eliminating or significantly decreasing the maintenance on the operating side. And then with every new vehicle, you've got a more fuel efficient vehicle, so you're also reducing your fuel expenses that way as well. So to give you 2 examples of how we've been able to take our resale strategies matched with the government buying power for our local government clients. We did this for City of Lincolnton a couple years ago. And this was 8 different vehicles in a couple of different departments. Most of them are half-ton pickups, Silverados. A couple of them are 3/4 ton. But they were on, I think they were on a 48-month term, taking advantage of the open-end equity lease and market value financing through Enterprise. And we're always analyzing and looking at what the market is doing to give you the best recommendations for your fleet. So at this time, the resale market was extremely high, and we were able to tell the City of Lincolnton, hey, we could sell these vehicles for more than what you paid for. They said, let's do it. Let's cycle these out earlier. And it might be kind of hard to see up there, but the delivered,
You're good.
okay,
Yeah.
all right. The delivered price is in the 3rd column from the right. The sell price in which we sold the vehicles for is the 2nd column to the right. And then the last one gives you that net difference between the purchase price and resale. And on average per vehicle was a little bit over than $3,000 per vehicle. So the total was $26,000 or a new truck, whichever way you want to look at it. So that's one example of where our resale has been able to have a positive impact to one of our local government clients. Another example slide is for Onslow County. They had 26 pickup trucks that they were cycled out early. There was over $337,000 of equity in those vehicles, and they also take advantage of our open-end equity lease. So they're financing the vehicles down to a residual book value. When we sold those vehicles, they took the equity from resale and rolled it as a down payment into the replacement vehicles, which actually lowered their monthly payment and cut each vehicle's monthly payment almost in half, reducing their monthly expense by $5,500 and annual savings of right under $67,000. So these are a couple examples. I gave you a couple examples of pickup trucks because pickup trucks have great resale value. That doesn't mean we're going to try to cycle every pickup truck out at 12, 24 months, 34 months. What that means is that we're always going to be constantly looking at what the effective life cycle is for every individual vehicle. Whether that is a pickup truck that goes 15,000 miles a year versus a pickup truck that goes 5,000 miles a year. that's gonna have a different plan. So your sedans are gonna be different. A very good example is police vehicles. Police vehicles, we typically look at a 60-month term. You've got heavy and expensive aftermarket on those vehicles. And the resale of those vehicles are a little bit different than some of the others. So there's gonna be all different types of plans, and it's really look at focusing on what that optimal time to replace is. So that's what we've done, that's what we do with our partners. But to look at the fleet for Town of Maiden Public Works, there's 19 vehicles in the fleet. This is a quick snapshot of the manufacturer's model year analysis and odometers. What I just want to point out is about over 50% of the fleet is over 10 years old or older, and about 48% of the fleet is over 100,000 miles. So we talked about how we can reduce maintenance and fuel by improving the age of the fleet, but it's also safety. And you also want to look at the safety of the vehicles and what changes in technology enhancements that we get in new vehicles every single year, and how that impacts not just the drivers and employees of those vehicles, but the community as well. So I put together some statistics on some of the different benefits and effects across different crash technologies that have been added to vehicles over the years, and the decrease in different accidents due to these improvements of technology. In the middle, there's your two current trucks in Public Works that are older that would not have any of these safety features. They're both older than 2012. And then on the right-hand side, that's just some statistics of how many vehicles in the Public Works fleet are within the model years of these different technologies. So that's something we like to point out as well, is just helping improve the health of the fleet, not just for operational reasons, but for safety as well. Then we've got we went over the fleet profile a minute ago, so there's mostly half-ton pickups and one-ton pickup trucks in the fleet. And what we want to look at as a conceptual plan, a long-term plan, and what impact our partnership could have on the Town of Maiden Public Works Department is I put together a 10-year analysis of what a replacement plan would look like. I worked with Todd and Brian on strategizing what vehicles they would want to cycle out, but also what vehicles they need to add, and what the budget is for this year, and how we could acquire those vehicles at or under the capital budget. So I do want to point out in the middle, it says like year one or fiscal year 23, we would recommend replacing any vehicles 10 years old or over 100,000 miles. There's a lot more than 4 of those vehicles, as you can see on the replacement schedule of 2023, but that is exactly what I mean when I talk about how we customize a plan that makes sense for the town. That's what we worked on together at looking at what that initial number in year one would be. So this information funnels into our overall 10-year plan. There's a lot of numbers on here, and so I'm not going to go through everything line by line, but ultimately what this says, and it's also in the fleet synopsis that I think you all got prior, but and I have printouts too if you need me to print those or pass those out, is that you're currently right now at about a 12 to 13 year holding period. And we want to look at reducing that current cycle period to about 3 to 4 years. By doing that, we're going to decrease the maintenance costs, we're going to decrease fuel costs, and we're going to be able to do all of that by purchasing more vehicles on an annual basis than the Public Works has ever done before, less than what the capital budget is through our open-end equity lease. And at the bottom, you'll see the current fleet equity analysis. So that is just the estimates of what we believe the vehicles that you currently own, the value of those vehicles. So in the top line, that's in orange, that's essentially what you're doing today and your baseline. So that's the data that I worked with and obtained with the help of Brian and sending me some of the information on what you guys are spending on maintenance and fuel, and what the average annual acquisitions. So in year one, in 2023, We would replace 4 vehicles, so 15 would still be owned outright, and then 4 would be leased. We would help with everything from either ordering the vehicle direct from manufacturer if we're still able to do that, and I'm talking this year, actually, we will do that years to come because you will reduce your costs by ordering direct from the manufacturer. But it'll also include helping sourcing any aftermarket or any additional logistics so that the vehicles are delivered turnkey, ready to go. And then you've got the 2 columns for equity owned and equity leased. Equity owned would be the estimated equity we would have for vehicles that we would cycle out in year 1. In the second column, you won't see anything in equity leased until year 2. That would be the estimated value from resale of any of those 4 vehicles, which would be a couple of the half tons that, hey, if we were to cycle those out early, here's the equity from resale for those vehicles.
Amanda, do y'all resell those or do we resell them?
We sell them on your behalf. Now, for any of them, so once they're on our program, yes, and like the examples I gave you, we would do that for you. When we start the partnership, we will look at the fleet and say if it's not worth us selling and we recommend you donating, or if there's not a ton of value, then we're gonna just tell you to dispose of it on your own or use it as a spare instead of selling it on your behalf if it's not advantageous for the town.
Thank you.
But ultimately, it's kind of small to see, but ultimately after 10 years, getting all the vehicles cycled through Enterprise and having us help with the management of those vehicles, looking at a savings of over $200,000 with the potential sustainable savings moving forward of $2,300. Again, this could all change based on what the needs are, based on what the budget is, but overall, this is what a plan would look like in getting it cycled and taking advantage of a partnership with Enterprise. Do y'all have any questions? I have other information I can go into as far as our services and different programs and stuff, but I want to focus on, I want to be conscious of time and answer any questions that you all might have regarding the partnership, the analysis. And did any of y'all need the synopsis that I sent out? Anybody need a copy? Got them on there?
Got them on iPads.
Okay. I will add, since I think Jennings made a comment about EVs or electric vehicles, if that is something that you're looking at for the future of Maiden, that is something that we're partnering with Geotab, one of our telematics partners, and doing a lot of studies across not just government entities but commercial to help stay ahead of it and be proactive in being able to help gauge and see and recommend what vehicles may make sense for electric vehicles and what may not.
I will add this, as many of y'all was at the conference will tell you, I went in this very skeptical. Cause how do you lease a vehicle and save money? The more research we did and the more other towns and other organizations I talked to, I did not, and I'm not trying to sway it one way, but I did not talk to any person that regretted doing this. Most of the people I talked to are number guys, not or girls. It wasn't the people actually driving the vehicles. They all said that they saved, and the area where they saved the most money was maintenance. And talking to Brian, our garage is pretty much almost to capacity as it is, because it's not just vehicles they work on. They have over 200 other pieces of equipment that they maintenance on. So, if the data that she's provided is correct, and the 5 or 6 other managers I've talked to are correct, this could be a way for us to save money and not add additional personnel in the future in the garage. Now, the problem that I think we're gonna have is not a money problem, it's a perception problem, because Maiden is a small town, and they're gonna see newer vehicles being driven around by town employees. And we're gonna have to be able to explain that we actually save money by doing this. That's gonna be the problem that I think we're gonna have. Most of the towns that I talk to are much larger. It's Shelby, it's, it's places like that. They don't have as many eyes on them, I guess, as we would. And that's the, and so that's why I'm gonna leave it. I think, we looked at starting with the Public Works because we were buying, something else I will bring up. When we buy vehicles, we have to buy off state contract. There's one vendor in the entire state that we gotta go through. And right now, it's at 18 months.
Yes, just to give an example, we ordered a bucket truck, delivery day on the bucket truck is January 2023.
So Enterprise can order from all 50 states and nationwide and not just from one vendor. And they still get the, what do you call it? We get the state bid, but you get the.
Yeah, you do too, because we're acquiring the vehicles on your behalf
Yes.
as you would be acquiring them, so.
But if you buy one from Virginia, it was the price, I can't think.
You mean
what
out
it's
of
called.
dealer stock?
Yeah,
versus
dealer stock
factor? Yeah.
prices. So they're not actually buying it, they're still getting a reduced price, they're not buying it for sticker.
So I got some folks in here that is not privy to this conversation, so I wanna make sure they hear it. Is this applicable to, emergency services like fire departments, police departments, EMS, those kind of things do y'all typically do that?
Yes, we don't do fire trucks or ambulances, just for liability reasons, and yes, we definitely do. In fact, we really started with doing, police vehicles first, because police vehicles are already typically on a cycle period, and you're not teaching the philosophy of cycling vehicles out, and maintaining the maintenance and that sort of thing, so, you know, and so we could do a separate analysis with that if that was something you were ever interested in, but yeah, the only thing we don't do is fire trucks or ambulances for liability.
And for everyone's, the reason we chose Public Works is we had 4 in the budget, and talking to Brian, he's like, we're not getting them this year. And I was like, well, and the chief had already pre-ordered his police vehicles for this year, so he's on schedule to get his. We're, you know, hopefully, fingers crossed, if nothing don't change. They was canceled today.
But I will say, I have some questions that we can talk about later on. I've done some research too, speaking with Michelle, the police chief over there, about I guess, the system there on the plan there, or not. I think that they have yet to recycle out, is my understanding.
Yeah, and.
So there were some questions that he brought to my attention, but me and Colin were just talking about the situation with both words, we could wait, but we can get together later.
So our thought before the police departments got canceled was, we had already pre-ordered them, let's focus on the ones we hadn't pre-ordered. So that's why the synopsis only takes in 4 vehicles from Public Works. If you look at Oslo County, the bigger the fleet, the more potential savings. But again, you have to hit that area where we buy them at state contract, and then we sell them for retail prices 2 years later, you know what I mean? So, I think it's gonna be some, if council decides to let us go ahead and negotiate this and move forward with it, there would not be any additional money out of the budget. We would just take the capital cost that we was gonna use and roll it into this program. However, like I said, we're gonna have to be really diligent how we explain this to our citizens.
I'd start off saying that we're gonna save $203,000, that's usually a good start.
Any other questions?
Is there a limit on your mileage? I know
No.
you kept using like 15.
Yeah, so no, sir, that's typically what we see for, government entities is anywhere between 8,000 to 15,000, depending on the size of the, location and municipalities, so, but there's no, and I have used the word lease and open-end equity lease, and I know the word lease probably makes some people be like, I don't, but it is not like if you and I were to go to a dealership and lease a vehicle. There's no mileage restrictions and no wear and tear penalties. The benefits of the open-end equity lease is that you are financing a vehicle just down to a residual book value. So if you are cycling vehicles every 24 to 60 months, 24, 48 months, whatever we set those plans up as, you're only paying for the life cycle of that vehicle. So instead of a large capital outlay, you can get twice the amount of vehicles for the same capital outlay that you've got through the open-end equity lease. And it is in the packet, but also we have an RFP with Sourcewell. I know you guys are members of Sourcewell. So that has already been taken care of as far as pricing, and we have been partnered with them for many years, and so those are also advantages for purchasing co-ops.
And I do know Jess is back there looking at, I do know before we can enter into this, we have to go through our auditor and do some things, but I didn't want to bother you while you was out. I know. And the key about this is we're not gonna have access, or we're not gonna have property at the end of it, but at the same time, we're not gonna have that liability either. I mean, as you notice, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't realize our fleet was as old as it was, but I mean, over half our fleet's over 10 years old. I wanna say the oldest one is 1987.
That old yellow.
Wow.
So, I mean, we do a really good job of keeping the equipment we got, but I do think we do a lot of maintenance on it from after talking to Brian and talking to the garage. And it's not just Public Works, it's across the board. But again, we had vehicles in this year's budget for, and that's what, I didn't want to come and ask for more money. I wanted to use the money that we had already allocated and see if we could make this work. And do a, they don't like the word pilot, but I wanted to do a little pilot program and see if it was really what it seemed to be.
So Amanda, I have one question.
Yeah.
And hypothetically, let's say we said tomorrow, let's go, we're gonna do this. What does that implementation of this look like? Timeline, how long does it take to start doing whatever gets us started in this? Can you kind of highlight that just briefly?
Yeah, so so the first thing we would really look at doing, so really what establishes a partnership with us is a signed vehicle quote, because that is the contract for per vehicle. So the first thing we would look at is, all right, of those 4 initial, or if it ends up being 5 initial needs, what's the most important need and where can we locate that, including any aftermarket that's needed, and get a quote for that and get an estimated delivery date. That would be first and foremost. And then we would look at the other options as well. But then we would also, we do a onboarding meeting with the local team. Will come out. Like I said, I'm new business development, so you have a client strategy manager and an account fleet coordinator, both who are local and will help with the high-level analytics and also be the day-to-day contact. We also bring 1 or 2 people from our leadership team so that you can see the local presence and the really what we cherish is our relationships with our clients. So we would set that meeting up, and then it would be we call it the first year a hand-holding year. So the partnership is established, but there's a lot of big changes that are going on. So it's really whatever comes from, like, how many meetings or what do we need from there is really what you guys would want from us. Okay. But it's a pretty quick implementation. So that's really what we would take and then move forward from there. We can talk more because I know we haven't gone into too much detail about different programs, and we talked about some with maintenance, but also involving the community and maintenance shops locally to help service some vehicles as well. So there's different programs and services to talk more about.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So what we need tonight is either A, would y'all like to table this and have some more time to think about it? Or B, would you like for the staff to start the process, to start looking at the best means to enter into a program with this and then bring it back to council for y'all's vote? I guess is the 2 different ways to look at it. You're not going to decide anything tonight. The best thing is, do you want us to look at what it would look like if we did do this and we went further into it, or would y'all like to have some more time to think about it?
But with what you're saying is, you would look outside of Public Works, like, let's look at everything and get a final number, and
Yes.
then, I mean, I think that's what we need to do, especially in light of
Yeah.
Chief just telling us about
And
the cars.
Keep in mind that supply chain issue is gonna affect whoever's buying this car.
Right.
It's not gonna be, either they're gonna get equipment, we will either. We have contingency plans, hopefully we know
Right,
Yeah.
but I think we need to get the whole big picture, me personally.
Does anyone on council disagree with that? If not, that's what we'll do.
Well, I don't have any disagreement with that. And I'm okay if we get that big picture and start getting it, working on it to bring it back to us, so we'll expedite it to
Yeah.
know that.
So ideally, beginning of, I guess, 2023 budget is when.
No, it would be in this year's budget.
It'd be the-
Yeah, we would take the capital that we have budgeted for this year and start this program.
So you would start, if all the logistics got worked out, it could start January 1. I'm just,
It could actually start in December if everything works out perfect. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and say that's gonna happen,
okay.
but, cause y'all could vote on it in November and then,
When I say start January 1, I meant vehicle out here in the lot.
oh, no, no.
Yeah, what are we looking at as a timeline for that? We don't know that.
Well, so that's
That
something
would be the person to answer that.
Yeah, so we could, I mean, there's a couple, of the 4 vehicles, we could definitely get, now the maybe dump would be a little bit different because of the aftermarket on that, but for half-ton regular cab, and then there's a SUV, Tahoe or similar. Tahoe would be very difficult, but if it's something similar, we could get that on the ground by November, December. I mean,
Okay.
our dealers are starting to get inventory in, and some other benefits too that we have with our reach and our infrastructure is when our other clients, so last year when we were preparing for, the year before when COVID hit, we didn't know about all the cancellations that were gonna happen, and then this year, they gave people who've been ordering vehicles from manufacturers, they gave allocations. And so we never had done this in the past, but we recommended ordering more vehicles than you needed because we don't know what the situation is gonna be if vehicles cancel. And we told our clients, if you don't need them, we will find homes for them because we could find homes for them. And we've had a few of those situations happen. I just had a client who had a Ford and GM allocation for cargo vans. And they came back, they got both allocations, and they knew that they got confirmation that they were gonna be built and produced. They didn't need all of them. So they said, we don't need the GM, we'll keep the Ford. So we had 14 GMC Chevy Express vans, which are like unicorns these days, that we were able to help and allocate to some of our other clients that needed them. So that's always happening, so there's opportunity for that, for factory order pricing, and then just through our reach for dealer stock. So we could definitely locate vehicles very quickly. There just might be just, hey, well, we don't want this one because of the color, or maybe this. So, but we could get cars on the ground the end of this month or next month, some sort, so.
So is council good with us moving forward with this?
Plan B.
Yes. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. Old business, crosswalk 14 East Boyd.
So at last month's meeting, we brought up the crosswalk at East Boyd Street. Brian has looked, and came up with an ideal, and I like it, is put a crosswalk straight across and also have, or is solar power, Brian,
Solar powered flashing beacons.
that you can
where hit
push,
the button.
but they're not wired. So the problem we have is we have water and gas on one side of the road, so we gotta be our space is very limited on how much ground we can disturb and go down. So we can't put anything too massive out there because we can't go deep enough to do it, and with the road and the size we have. So talking with Blake, as I understand it, is before we put a crosswalk up, we have to have a public hearing. So if you wanna move forward with this, we can start getting prices and getting things ordered and getting ready to, move forward. But council would have to, you don't have to call, but the mayor can do that, but council would have to have a public hearing at next month's meeting. And then after the public hearing, you could vote to install one. Did I say that correct, Blake? So, and I believe I've crossed all the Ts with you too, chief, right? Okay. So that's kind of, this is my first crosswalk, so it's, you know, it's something new for us.
So, yeah, I recommend that we go ahead and start crossing our Ts and then,
And I won't.
yep, and then have a public hearing next meeting.
All right.
Then we'll
We will
probably
have,
walk.
we will have a more detailed, exactly what it's gonna look like type stuff. All right?
Do. New business. Excavator purchase.
So this kind of rolls in with number 12 as well. So as I said earlier, when Jennings walked in, he literally walked into my office when I was getting off the phone. FEMA of 2013, which was 9 years ago, we had a flood. I want to say we ended up spending around $130-some thousand. Of that, FEMA has reimbursed the town a total of $119,957.71. That must go back into to the sewer department. Talking with Brian, in next year's budget, CIP, we had scheduled to buy a mini excavator. Talking to the dealerships, because of different emission standards and other things, there's a potential of 11% price increase, up to an 11% price increase for different reasons. Therefore, he's found a 2021,
It's 2022.
2022 in Charlotte that meets the needs, that does not fall under these emission standards for the excavator and the transport trailer for $110,000. So it comes in under the FEMA amount. If you choose not to buy the mini excavator, you do realize that the money has to go in the sewer. It can't be used for anything else. Also, the current excavator we have is being shared amongst the street department, water and sewer, electric department, and even sometimes the wastewater treatment plant. We have 2 projects that's ongoing right now.
We have a pretty big project over at Paradise Hills, which is Old Tavern. 80-some homes going in over there. Plus, we're in preparation for putting electric in for the villages, 321 North.
So those 2 projects is basically going to gobble up the use of the excavator for at least 6 to 8 months. So that's what is before you tonight. I actually think you can make the motion to purchase the excavator or not, and then under 12A will be the budget amendment to do so. So if you choose not to purchase the mini excavator, we will have to come back next month with another budget amendment because we have to accept the money, and it has to go in the sewer. Did I say that correctly, Jess? Okay.
Do you want us to make a motion about this?
We would need a motion, yes, ma'am, on both
Or
items.
any discussion?
Or any discussion.
Brian, does it have a thumb? Does it have a thumb?
It does have a.
Okay,
Yes,
good,
sir.
all right.
So
I
this
don't
is,
know what a thumb is.
It,
That right
yeah,
there? A trigger
it'll be
thumb?
more beneficial,
Oh, operating.
yeah.
Operating.
No, the bucket's
The
got.
bucket's got a thumb on
So you
it,
can
yeah.
grab stuff.
Oh, picture.
Yeah. Yeah, pincher.
There you go. Pretty close.
That's not a thumb.
so which one of those are we getting, Brian?
The Cat 306 was a low bid there.
Okay. And we were gonna do that anyway in this year's budget, is that what I understood?
Yes, it was included in the CIP for next year's budget.
So we're not gonna like do this now, and then we're gonna put something in there for next year's budget again, or?
No, we've already had that discussion with Hatton Brown.
Just making sure.
It's just an opportunity to get it probably at least 12 months earlier and save $12,000.
I make a motion that we, accept the bid that Brian has submitted for the purchase of this equipment and trailer.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion's carried unanimous. Ordinance and resolution, ordinance 8/2023 to amend the fiscal year 2022-2023 budget in the water sewer department.
Max, before we do that, or Mayor, before we do that, is there any other equipment that we're gonna be hit by with an 11% charge or anything else that we don't know of at this time?
They probably are, but I don't think that was included in next year's CPI. Now, we can go back and look at 2 years from now and see if there's anything out there, but we only focused on last year's CPI when we looked at it.
So did we, I mean, I know it's probably been a minute, I've forgotten, did we order a fire truck?
We got the tanker on order right now.
So we've already paid for it?
We haven't paid for it, no. But it's supposed to be in,
Supposed to hit production October 17th.
Would that emission apply to this?
I do not believe so.
I don't think so.
Emissions requirements are different from equipment than they are vehicles.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, very good.
Trains will be next.
We don't own any of those
They're
yet.
gonna hit them.
We got the tracks, we ain't got
That's exactly.
it. All right, sorry, Jessica.
That's okay. I'll just reiterate basically what Todd has already presented to you. We received the check from FEMA. We do need to bring this money in the total amount of $119,958. It has to go into the sewer fund. So I need a approval to put this money back where it belongs.
Make a motion that we, accept ordinance number 8 to amend the FY fiscal year budget 22-23 and put this, back in the budget for water and sewer department.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carried unanimous. Proclamation. This is proclamation. This is the Fire Prevention Week for October 9th through the 15th. I was going to read it, whereas in 2022 Fire Prevention Week theme is Fire Won't Wait, Plan Your Escape. Works to educate everybody about simple actions to keep everyone safe. So therefore, I, Max Baumgartner, Jr., Mayor of the Town of Maiden, do hereby proclaim October 9th through the 15th, 2022 as Fire Prevention Week. Luke, you want to say anything on it?
No, I just, appreciate the town, backing us up on this, and, our guys are going out each day this week to, schools. Yesterday, they were,
Miss Mills.
They were at Cornerstone,
Oh,
and today they were at
Miss Millie's.
Oh, that's
Tomorrow
today.
they'll be at, Rosenwald. Thursday, they'll be at Maiden Library in the morning, and then we'll be at Tuttle Elementary that afternoon, and then Friday they'll be at Maiden Elementary. So we're out in public, doing this for the kids and for the adults. We'll do it anytime. It don't just have to be this week. We take care of fire prevention, but anytime we set up throughout the community. We appreciate it.
I will tell you, on a personal note, my 3-year-old has never once remembered what happened at school until today. When I picked him, he goes, "Fire truck, big one." That's all he could say, but at least he knew what was there. Normally, he can't remember what they did during that day.
That's cool.
Yeah, I was delivering down in Lincoln today, and they got a big sign on the square down there where they're promoting it, so I think we're right in line with them.
We got that on our sign down
All right, we're gonna go into closed session with
I move that we
consultation.
go into closed session.
I got a motion,
Second.
you got a second, all in favor say aye,
Aye.
all opposed say no. Everybody welcome to hang around, or if not, we'll see
Mr.
you
Mayor,
next
you
go
have
around.
to give me just a second.